thank you so much to Trevor and Alex, some of the VIP crew from the film The Steed, which is screening at Cinemagic this week as part of the Cinemagic Virtual Film Festival. We're so glad that you could join us today to talk about the film. And without further ado, I will hand you over to Charlotte Cleary, one of our Cinemagic members, to get a little insight to the movie, having watched it herself over the weekend, and just a little insight very much then to the filmmaking process. So over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Claire, and hi Trevor and Alexa. It's so cool to be talking to you right now. I just want to say I love The Steed. I thought it was such a beautiful film, really like a whole love letter to Mongolian culture. I just love learning about Mongolia through the movie, and just learning about these brilliant characters, especially Rusty the horse and the boy. I love them. They were great characters. My first question is about Rusty the horse. He's really an important character in the film, and he goes on his journey to travel back to his homeland and meet up again with his best friend, the boy Chulun. What was it like working with a horse? Because he's essentially a main character. Was there another horse that portrayed Rusty, or was there a lot of animal trainers involved in working with the film?
Mm-hmm.
Alexa?
Sure. So I'll start. So our director, E.B. Gumbold, and I think he wasn't able to join, but he grew up around horses. So it was just a natural thing for him to be able to work with horses. Mm-hmm. So we actually worked with 3 different horses to portray Rusty. And so all 3 of them were trained since birth to be in this movie, and 3 of them had a very distinguished personality. One was very aggressive, and he was used in some of the shots, like coming out of the mud, etc. And then one had this very deep, beautiful eyes, and was very connected with our boy, the main character. And then the other one was just very expressive. So we had 3 different horses playing Rusty. And so, like I was saying, all 3 of them were trained since birth. So we had 3 different trainers for each Rusty, for each horses. And, we always had them on set throughout the whole time. So, but working with them, obviously, you switch 3 horses, so the horses don't get tired, and then they get to just be themselves naturally. So, of course, there were some challenging times. Our director was saying, I never want to work with an animal again, because he was saying, it's difficult to work with kids, because he did that before in his previous film. And then he's like, I will never work with kids. But then this time around, he worked with kids and a horse.
There you go.
So it was even more challenging for him. But then after it was done, he's like, well, now it's wolf, and then now it's going to be birds. So we're like, okay, I guess it wasn't that, crazy. So there were some challenging things, but most of the time it was really rewarding. And additionally, we had about 3,000 horses on set. And it was from 3 different families. They just gathered their horses together, and we were able to bring 3,000 horses, but we were only able to capture 800. So only 800 of them listened to our director. The rest of them
just wild, free Mongolian horses living their lives.
Yes.
Amazing.
I would also say that with the horses, it'd be talking about the challenges of working with them and with the children. I think that this film, we got really lucky. The horses were, they performed so much greater than we ever could have, hoped for. And the boy, you can't watch that film and not remember that face, and he was a really, there was something very deep with everything that he did. And the bond between the boy and the horse was, that wasn't fake. That was real. They were really like that.
No, yeah, that completely comes across on screen. You can just tell how connected they are, and that really just draws you into the story as well. That's great. Thank you so much. My next question is about the cinematography in your film. I thought it was like gorgeous, like amazing, really, like evoking the mythic quality of the land and like its natural beauty and the dynamic shots. I thought, like, how did you capture these dynamic like shots and characters? Like, was there a lot of like rigging and because there's a lot of galloping scenes of the horses. So I'm just wondering like how that all worked together, the technicalities of that.
So our cinematographer, Batar, we were out in very remote places. So a lot of the shots that you see, I mean, you wouldn't believe how we accomplished them. Batar was like, not only does he have this amazing, eye and a real gift as a cinematographer, but he's also, he's like Superman. The guy, he had a 3-axis Ronin gimbal that he was shooting with mostly.
Wow.
And usually in the States, when they shoot with these kinds of things, there's a pack with a hook around it that holds it for them. He didn't have any of that. He's just holding a 3-axis gimbal for 14 hours away from his body, like it's nothing. And those tracking shots that you see, like when they're going through the villages and stuff, that wasn't with a truck. That was him running full speed.
Whoa.
So I mean, yeah, the guy he was really amazing. And I would say that like one of the reasons why, you're talking about how the cinematography was like a love letter to the country. I think that both the director and Batar, they have this sort of shorthand that really, a really good situation with the director and a DP you get. And because of that, it really showed on screen. And it was also, as a producer, it's one of those things you love to be able to just sit back and watch. So
yeah, wow, that is amazing. Like he was running full speed with the horses. That is just like, that was blowing me away right now.
yeah, it was a constant situation. You'd be like, "Where's Batar?" And you'd look over, and he'd just be like,
that is brilliant. Oh my gosh, like I bow down to him. That is like some incredible skill. I think my next question is about the score of the film. I am a big lover of music. I'm a singer myself, and I just thought like the score of the film was so gorgeous, mixing modern instruments like symphony sounds with the traditional Mongolian music and singing. How did that come about, and was it really important to you guys to have that song tradition portrayed in the film?
You want to start that, Alexa?
Yes. So our composer, his name is Oki, and he composed the music for the film. So everything was originally composed. And what they did, Ibi and Oki, they got together, and then they actually had the Mongolian State National Philharmonic Orchestra to play the sound. So we recorded it by having them play the national orchestra and also the fiddle orchestra. So we had about 100 people as the original orchestra, and then about 50 fiddle orchestra also to record the music. And like you said, and we're glad that you've noticed that it's mixed between traditional and contemporary, so that it's still relatable to us in this era, but it still brings in the culture from back then by bringing the instruments. And the fiddle, as you saw in the movie, it's a very traditional, one of the instruments that Mongolians are very proud of. And that instrument was throughout the entire orchestra, throughout the entire the songs of the music. I mean the film, but it was very important for us to have fiddles play the music because it was also a big part of the movie.
Oh yeah, especially because part of the whole story as well, where he goes and makes the fiddle for him out of the horsehair.
Yeah, exactly. That's these horsehair fiddles. They're kind of special because of that. They have a connection to the animals and the land and the music. You know, you kind of put it all together, and I felt like the music also, it had some kind of, it reminded me of Copeland music as well. So it's kind of it's interesting to see how you get these kinds of fusions with music and that kind of stuff. So I mean, I was so happy when I first heard the music, and I think it really did well with the film.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. It really just brings, like, tying in with all the cinematography and the story, the acting, and it just like brings it all together, and you get that whole love letter to Mongolian culture, and it just like washes over you. That's what I found. I think there's so much passion in this movie. Like, you can just like feel it. Like, as I'm saying, it just like washes over you. Within the story, and you guys, the crew, I can tell you're all very, very passionate about it, and it means a lot to you. Just a celebration of Mongolian culture and mythology. What inspired you, with your director and you guys, all to tell this story right now?
So yeah, so Three Flames Pictures is our production company. It was established in 2017. So the partners, the founders are myself, Alexa, and Trevor Doyle, and Ibi Gumboldt, who is the director of this film. So the three of us started talking, and we're like, okay, what film should we start the production with? And then Ibi came up with this idea to make this film, The Steed. So this film is based on a very famous poem in Mongolia. We grew up learning it. We grew up memorizing it in middle school. So it's a very famous poem in Mongolia, and we wanted to adapt it. Ibi wanted to adapt it to turn it into film. So we were like, okay, it's a very famous story. Let's just get it done. And so he started writing the script, and then with that script, we brought it over to the US, and we made sure that it can also adapt to the Western society, so that people can also relate to it, right? So that's how we started working on it. And it was just, you know, from the beginning, we were a little bit nervous because it's a very famous poem in Mongolia, and we're like, we can't mess this up because, you know, people can watch it and appreciate it, but at the same time, they're going to say, oh, well, that's not how it works. That's not how it was. So we just wanted to make sure that it was really, really, you know, we're taking on this legendary poem, and we wanted to kind of do it our best so that we can portray it as it's supposed to be. So so that was basically our inspiration. And also, it just shows the Mongolian tradition and Mongolian culture very well. And Trevor always says this, which is something that I didn't notice. You know, whenever I meet people, I'm from Mongolia, and they will be like, oh yeah, Genghis Khan, the warriors. And, you know, so that's how people see Mongolians, as this really, you know, people just going around and invading countries. But the Steed shows the normal life, especially back in the day, how people lived. So it was just, so we just decided to, yes, let's dive in. But it ended as our third film because it took us about 2.5 to 3 years to finish it. So in between, we ended up making 2 other films.
Hey, that's great. Like, what an amazing feat to accomplish. Like, especially with this film, it's so, as you were saying, like, connected to the normal everyday life of what it was like back in the day to live in Mongolia. That like strong cultural connection to your heritage, which is very strong in Ireland too, I would believe as well, like with the song tradition and that the poetry, like the whole poem that the film is based off of. I think it's amazing. Is the connection to your horses and heritage still as strong in Mongolia as it is portrayed in the film today?
Yes. So we have every year during summer, we have the celebration called Nadam. It is when Mongolia declared as Mongolia. So we celebrate that. It celebrates three different accomplishments in Mongolia. But during that time, we have 3 sports, which is one is wrestling, the other one is archery, and then the other one is horse racing. And the horse racing is such a big deal. So people prepare their horses to race, 6 months in advance. And and then they end up racing. So a horse is very sacred animal that we have, and we do have that deep connection until now.
Wow. No, yeah, you can totally feel
You
it.
want to add something, Trevor, to that?
I was just gonna say, I would also say that actually, although Ireland and Mongolia they're very disparate cultures, but I would say at least the ancient history, there's a similarity, I think, between two, and especially like horse racing and things like that, because I think it's also a very big deal where you're from.
Oh yeah, nowadays, yes.
and you know, I think that when you see the racing in Mongolia, you get kind of a look at into what racing was probably like a long time ago in other places. And as far as like, you know, you're asking, is it still the same today? It's like everybody on the set was a great horseman. There wasn't anybody that couldn't ride a horse that was on that set. And like a typical thing that Mongolians do, like when they want to get a better look at like what's over the horizon, they just stand on the rump of the horse and look around. And it's like, this is like normal. This isn't like, you know, oh my goodness, this is some kind of amazing feat. They're just like, this is what they do. My first day on set in the Highlands, we had this scene that we were shooting where we wanted all the horses to come at us, and they started the drive, and they're all running at us, and I think this is cool, and they still keep coming, and I'm starting to get a little worried, and I don't know how this is going to. And then I start feeling the ground shaking as they're coming towards us, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm looking at everybody, and I'm like, we're gonna die. And then the first AD, he has, you know, he has his clipboard and everything like that, and all of a sudden he just drops it and runs straight at the horses. And I'm like, what on earth is this guy going to do? And he basically just throws an arm out in front of the lead horse, flips right over its back, and then just drives all the horses off like that. And I'm, you know, I'm like, and then, you know, I look over at B, the director, and he's like, one more time, let's do it again.
Wow, that is like brilliant. Oh my gosh, that is like, I can just imagine you like standing there,
Yeah,
like,
I'm like
coming outside of like the Mongolian culture, and you're like, what's happening?
Yeah. It's like I flew to China, then I flew to Ulaanbaatar, and then I got in an airplane, and then we flew to a smaller town, and then we drove like 30 hours on a 4-wheel drive up into the Highlands, and then like the very next day, that was the first thing that I saw.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Welcome to Mongolia.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Actually, I don't have this question written down, but it's just occurred to me. How did you guys all meet? You, your director, Ibi, you, Alexa, and Trevor. How did you all meet and decide to create 3 Flame Pictures?
Well, I think Alexa's going to have to tell you how she actually met Ibi. But like I met Alexa, you know, here in the States, and we had met working on funding a different project, and we just you know, we saw very eye to eye on the way we thought, you know, films should be made, and also just the kind of things that we were interested in telling stories about culture and that kind of stuff. So, you know, we weren't sure exactly where we were going to go with that, and then Alexa was like, hey, wait a minute, and I'll let you go from there.
Yeah. So I always had passion for film, and I also was very into the theater and acting and everything. So my background is actually finance. I went to school for finance, and I was in finance for a while, 6 to 7 years. And then I've decided to get into film because I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, and my husband was always pushing me, if I don't do this, I will regret it. And then so I got out. But I entered the industry as an actress first. And then as I was going through it, you know, the production side was very interesting to me. And then I met many people. And then one of the meetings was with Trevor. And then it was just there. and then we decided to work on it together on any project. And then, but prior to that, I've met Ibi when I was actually in high school. The way I met him is he was a student at the University of Arts, and he was studying for acting and directing. But during that time, during summer, he was a camping coach, camp teacher. So I met him, yes. So I met him during that time. And then ever since, because of a group of friends, we would always go back to his, because so there's like a section, we always go back to his section. And he was just a really passionate teacher who loved film. And so some of our projects to compete against the other campgrounds is to make movies. And I've acted in it and he directed in it. And so it was just like, because of that, I was also very passionate about film. Anyway, when I was here living in the US for a long time, I came back to the US before I even met Trevor. I saw Ibi all over Mongolia and the billboards. It was just like, I know that guy, I know him. And he was just on TV everywhere. So he became this really famous actor and director. So I met up with him and said, oh, you know what? I live in Los Angeles. I would love to link it together. And then he's like, that's a good thought. Let's just keep in touch. And then I met Trevor. And then I was like, you know what? The three of us have to do something. And then we're like, okay, let's just do it. And that's how kind of everything started.
and also like with the Steed itself, because my background, actually, I was an archaeologist before I was a filmmaker.
Whoa, there you go.
I lived in Finland. I worked for the National Board of Antiquities in Helsinki. And when I was doing archaeology, I got very into really about the cultures that I was looking at, it was basically Stone Age culture. Mm. But one of the things that I found most fascinating was just the way people look at ancient peoples and other cultures. We have like what we assume people are like, and then there's what people were actually like, and there's usually a pretty big difference between the two. And I was super fascinated with Mongolian culture my whole life, even when I was a child. And I'd always wanted to learn more about it. And then, of course, when they bring the story, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is about Mongolian culture. This is not about the conquering and all the other kind of stuff. This is about like the real people and what they're really like. And I think for all of us, like all three of us, that was the kind of uniting factor for why we wanted to make this film, and also why we want to continue working together, because we really want to be able to tell these stories about people's culture that resonate in a way with everyone. It's like it can be something that's very different, but also we can kind of unite and see the similarities between all of us. And I think it's an important part of all of this.
Oh, exactly. I would completely agree with that. And I think through your films, connecting LA and Mongolia, and I can see similarities of like the Irish culture, like you were saying, Trevor, in the film, and how we like view ancient cultures now, but versus what they're actually like. I think it's really important to tell the stories of your culture and your homeland, and I think the Steed does that amazingly, and showing that beautiful tradition and mythology through the story of the boy and his horse. That it just is an amazing film, and it really inspired me. And it's funny as well, because I have been kind of getting into Mongolian culture lately. Like before Claire sent me the film, I stumbled across a video of the Altai Mountains, like these guys doing the Mongolian throat singing, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. You guys can just do these like really deep things with your voices, and then they can go up really high, or they can do overtones. And I was like, this is amazing. And then Claire was like, oh, here's the link for this movie that we're going to be chatting to the producers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then I was like, it's Mongolia, and it's the throat singing here in the soundtrack. So I was just like so excited. Just thank you for your brilliant film. Tell your director Ibi that it's really amazing, and it hits a special place in my heart. And thank you guys for creating this beautiful film.
So much for having us.
Thank you. Well, do you know what? I think that was like, it was all meant to be then, that everybody was on the call tonight. And that is really funny, Charlotte, that is like recently what you were looking up and looking at. So it just shows you as well, I think, a bit of a chance encounter, because Trevor just found out recently about the film actually being screened at Cinemagic, because obviously it goes through distributors and lots of different people, and sometimes the producers are the last people to know what's happening. But when we got that message from Trevor just on Friday, and we were always hoping to have either, you know, crew or cast, you know, do some Q&As and things going forward with the festival being on an online platform. And then it was just such a nice chance encounter that you got in touch, and that we were all able to do this. And I just knew Charlotte would be the perfect viewer for the film, and I just knew that it would have a special place in her heart. So and as well as that, like, what better platform to show how similar cultures are, when on the surface, you know, everything is very different, and a lot of time people point to what divides us rather than what unites us. So it's so nice actually to see, you know, on the face of it, there may not have been any connections and things between all of the cultures, and even bringing in that like connection to the Irish culture and ancient times. You know, it's so nice again just looking at it all as, you know, that sort of common bond apart, you know, rather than the diverse thing that, you know, is different about us all. So it's a very uplifting film, and it's so uplifting and heartwarming as well, just talking to you all. And you can really see the passion that is involved in Three Flames. And, you know, obviously not having Evie here tonight, or today, you can just tell that the dynamics are just incredible between you. And it was, the stars aligned as well, in the fact that the three of you got together to create the production company. So it's so nice to be able to tell that story through the fact that we're screening the film at Cinemagic. And thank you also so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, we were just so excited to hear about this festival, and you know, it just connects us all. So it was just amazing. So we're very, very excited to be here.
Well, that's great. And who knows, perhaps one of your next projects could be about Ireland, and you could have a return trip, Trevor, back.
That'd be great.
We'll experience the culture there.
Exactly.
The Cracog is Kjol. The fun of the music. That's what we say here in Ireland. I'll say Slán and Gur Mahagat, which means goodbye and thank you.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.